Hello everyone, I hope you had a lovely week. I have talked about my family and myself in some of my vlogs, how I felt like the black sheep, how I felt I do not belong, and how my being different became an issue. Today, I would like to talk about how my family cancelled me. When I grew up and was aligning with what was expected of me, my family seemed happy and accepting. It was only when I started to act on my feeling of being different that this changed. My wish to live a different life, to not follow the conventional foreseen path, fell on judgmental ears. It was in my 20s that things really changed, when I was confident in knowing that I needed to follow my own path, a different path. My going to live and work in France for a while was met with indifference and negative reactions. Whatever I did after was the subject of conversation. Often I felt like I was on trial for things I did. If I had a boyfriend from a wealthy family, I was a gold digger. If I was losing weight to a small size, I was probably ill. When I became a single mother, I should have foreseen that. It must have been my fault. There came a time when I stopped telling my family about the specifics of my life. I wasn't willing to be subject to their judging, their jealousy, and their bitterness. When I relocated to Scotland, I felt like a burden was lifted off me for several reasons, but one of them was that I knew I would not be exposed to gossip and harshness any longer. I had accepted that my immediate family, besides my father, would never support and embrace the person I am. Throughout the years of my sons and my living in Scotland, we visited my father many times, and of course my family as well. Those meetings were never easy. I kept the conversation shallow and talked about non-personal things. On one of these occasions, I bumped into my younger sister by coincidence. Her reaction was not being surprised to see me or asking how I or my son were, how our life in Scotland went. Instead, she told me about her day at work, her dogs, and simply ignored the fact that I was visiting from abroad. Although all those meetings were difficult, I kept the peace. I did not act on the deliberate acts to continue to be provoking on whatever I had chosen for my life. I kept the peace for my father. I did not want him to having to deal with quarrels. We all were his children, and I did not want him to worry. I have spoken about my late father before. He was a kind, caring, intelligent, funny, and very unique person. We regularly had long phone conversations to see how the other was doing. And then there came the time when my father had a stroke and was critically ill. As soon as possible, I had my son excused from school to fly to Germany and see him, as there was also the question of his life support should anything turn for the worse. I stayed in a hotel that time. None of my sisters were interested in knowing when or if we would be able to come, even though I made contact via chat many times with questions that were ignored. I got to see my father, who was on the mend, much to our relief. So I went on holiday with my son that was pre-booked long before this and that I had saved up for a wee while. Still ignored by most of my questions, I phoned the hospital from afar as I felt something was going on reading some of the messages in the chat and learned that my father's health had taken another turn and that he was dying. I considered flying to Germany again, but I did not. I did not want my lovely father to die with a tense atmosphere around him. We know that people who are no longer masters of their senses can still sense many things, especially emotions. So, my father passed away. I was not part in any of the arrangements afterwards. I was never included in the preparations for his funeral, his wake, or his inheritance. I also never asked again to be part of that, as I had learned that my questions would remain ignored. I got an invitation to my own father's funeral in the mail and flew to attend the funeral in my own way, not as part of the family. I had a lovely group of friends supporting me on this very difficult day. I had known for a long time that the time my father would pass away, I would cut ties with my immediate family. So when my family cancelled me, their cruelty and deliberate acts did not have the effect they wished for. I hadn't even considered that my family had in fact cancelled me. It was only some months ago when my niece, who I kept in touch with, worded it this way, how she thought it was wrong, and when she investigated with my sisters to find out about why they had treated me that way, they had given her no answer. But they all agreed that I was my father's favorite child. What a crime to commit. I have a very happy life now. I feel sad to having to say that I do not come from a loving and caring family, that my father's legacy of kindness does not live on in all my siblings. We never choose our family, but we can choose to live a life we deserve. Everyone deserves love, understanding, happiness, and support. We can choose a different path. We can choose another kind of family. We can choose to still be happy besides all the unhappiness in the world.